Good morning, and welcome to Redeemer Lutheran Church in Columbia, South Carolina, where we're part of the ELCA. I'm Pastor Gary Lodeholt. I hope you have seen the video. It shows a sheep that has fallen into a narrow crevasse in the midst of the pasture. It's stuck between the narrow walls with no way to extricate itself. The shepherd tugs and tugs at the sheep's leg until finally it is pulled free. The sheep is exultant and begins leaping for joy and cavorting all over until, just seconds after it has been freed, 30 feet further along, it lands right back in the crevasse again. Sounds like us, doesn't it? So often we get ourselves in messes, and then when we are freed, we get right back in the same mess again. This week we are talking about the depth of God's love for us, and today our focus is on God's restoring love. Like that sheep, we need to be restored over and over again, and that's the very kind of love God has for us. To talk about that more, let's look once again at the parable of the prodigal son. I've told you several times over the years that I think this parable is misnamed. We call it the parable of the prodigal son, but that's not who the parable is about. Rather, it's about the father who forgave. Jesus begins the parable by saying, there was a man who had 2 sons. Clearly, the parable isn't about the sons, but about the father. Even more, for years I labored under a misapprehension. As we do with a lot of words, I defined the word prodigal by its context. I never looked up the word officially, but just took a meaning I presumed from the story. So I thought the word meant something like wayward or runaway. Instead, the word means wastefully extravagant. And if that's what the word means, then I think there are 3 prodigals in the story Jesus told. Let's deal with the younger son first. Now, frankly, we might understand his position. In that day, the older son inherited almost all of their father's estate, and the younger siblings were pretty much on their own. So the boy asked for the small portion he is due early, rather than waiting for his father to die, who knew when. Still, it must have been hurtful to the father to have his son say something like, "Let it be to me as if you were already dead." But this father did it, gave the boy his part, and then watched as the boy left home to make his way in the world. Now, you know the way he chose wasn't a good one, and soon enough all the inheritance was gone, and this nice Jewish boy ended up feeding pigs. You can't fall much further. And that's when he came to himself and decided to go home. He had no expectation that he would be welcomed, much less hope for a restoration to his position as a son, but still he went back. It turns out the father was out there on the porch actively looking for his son to return, and when he sees him, he runs to his son, something a man in Israel never did. They thought that running like that forfeited all dignity the man had, but this father didn't care about that. The son he loved was back. The father embraced the son and restored him to a place of honor as his son again. And right there is where Jesus described God's restoring love. It doesn't matter how we have offended God or wandered away from God or wasted the things God has given us. God is out on heaven's porch looking for us, searching for us, eager for us to return. God embraces us in a love that ignores our past and restores us to all we can be. If ever there's good news for us, it is found here in this story. Still, Jesus isn't finished. He also addresses the snotty older brother who resents his brother's return. The father has love for that one too, assuring him that everything the father has belongs to his uppity son. Did you catch that? The father has emptied himself of everything. He's given it all for one boy who wasted everything, and for the other one who wasted his time with his father and who was so over-concerned with himself. Remember that prodigal means wastefully extravagant. Lavish might be another word. So in this story, you've got the son who was prodigal with his part of the inheritance. You've got the older son who was wastefully extravagant with all the opportunities and time he had had with his father, and who dared to look with derision on his brother. And you have the father who was lavish with his love for these two boys we'd probably not want anything to do with. This is God's restoring love, a love that overlooks our blind and willing wastefulness, that eagerly welcomes our repentance and return, that abides with us even in our self-righteousness and pride. This is God's restoring love, putting a new robe on us and a ring on our fingers, or leaving the party to find us outside and gather us too into God's arms of love. In God's restoring love, the past is forgotten and we are made whole. We are made new. No matter how many times we fall in the crevasse, God's love welcomes us home. Thanks for sharing these moments with me, and remember to let this day belong to God.